They thought he was just another name on a docket. Another black man in cuffs, head down, hoodie up, sitting quiet in courtroom number 3. The bailiff smirked. The prosecutor didn't even look up from his phone. And the cops who dragged him in? They were laughing. Loud. Ugly. "Yo, you sure he's not one of the janitors?" One officer leaned over, nudging the other. "He looks like he just crawled out of a halfway house." They laughed, loud enough for him to hear. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't move, just sat there, calm, silent, watching. The judge walked in, banged the gavel. "All rise." They rose. He rose, charged with obstruction of justice, impersonating a federal officer, trespassing in a government facility. They said he stormed into a high-security area of the local precinct, claimed he was inspecting the building. They said he refused to show ID, didn't answer questions, didn't comply. So they tackled him, dragged him out, booked him like a thug, paraded him through the lobby, let the cameras flash. The defense attorney, a kid barely out of law school, shuffled his papers nervously, whispered something about a misunderstanding. The judge rolled her eyes. "Does the defendant have anything to say?" He stood, slow, steady, measured, took off the hoodie, revealed a tailored suit beneath, pinstriped, crisp, immaculate, reached into his pocket, pulled out a badge, set it on the table. The courtroom went silent, dead silent. Director Nathaniel Briggs, Federal Bureau of Investigation, voice smooth, calm, deep, carried through the room like thunder in a church. The judge leaned forward, squinted. The bailiff froze. The prosecutor's phone slipped from his hands. The badge was real. And the name? Oh, it rang bells. He wasn't just with the FBI. He ran it. The highest-ranking black man in the Bureau's history. Oversaw 6 national divisions. Top clearance, top authority. And this courtroom, this entire precinct, was under his jurisdiction. "Yesterday," he said, "I was conducting a covert integrity inspection." Paused. Let the silence sit. "My team received multiple complaints about officer misconduct in this precinct." Looked directly at the cops who'd laughed. "Unlawful arrests, racial profiling, excessive force, tampering with evidence." Eyes widened, faces paled. One officer started sweating. "I entered the premises lawfully, using my federal credentials. I identified myself. Your officers ignored them." Turned to the judge. "They violated at least 5 federal statutes, including obstruction of a federal investigation." Now the judge looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Director Briggs, He held up a hand. Not angry, just disappointed. "This wasn't about me. I knew walking in that I'd be judged by the color of my skin before the content of my badge." Looked to the jury box, to the crowd, to the officers who had smirked and laughed just 10 minutes ago. "And that is exactly why I did it." You could hear hearts pounding, feet shifting, whispers rising. "I didn't come here for an apology," he said. "I came for accountability." Turned to the DA. "I've already forwarded footage from my body cam to the Inspector General and to every major civil rights oversight board in the state." Nodded slowly. "This courtroom is about to become very famous." The DA looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. The judge called recess. Fast. Real fast. Security swarmed the room, but this time, they weren't looking at Briggs. They were surrounding the officers, the laughing officers, the same ones who thought they'd caught a nobody. Now they were being escorted out, stripped of weapons, stripped of badges, stripped of power. And as Briggs walked out of that courtroom, he turned to the defense attorney, the young brother who'd stood by him even when it looked hopeless. "Call me tomorrow," he said. "I've got a position open. You're gonna want it." The young lawyer just nodded, couldn't even speak, eyes glassy, mouth open. Briggs gave him a small smile, then disappeared into a black SUV. No sirens, no entourage, just quiet dignity. But just when the city thought the storm had passed, the real thunder hit. The footage from the body cam, it leaked. Went viral. 30 million views in one day. The clip of an officer calling Briggs "boy" played on every news channel, every phone screen, every headline. The precinct's corruption wider than anyone knew. Turns out, Briggs had only just begun. He wasn't there just for a spot inspection. He was following a trail, a deeper, darker network of dirty cops, forged warrants, missing evidence, and a secret committee that had been silencing whistleblowers for years. This wasn't just about a courtroom. It was about a system. And Director Nathaniel Briggs, he wasn't backing down. Justice had started knocking. But now, it was kicking in the door. They thought it was over. Thought Director Nathaniel Briggs had walked away satisfied. Thought the cameras would stop rolling, that the fire would die down. But the truth? That courtroom was just the spark. The inferno was still coming. 3 days later, federal agents swarmed the 9th Precinct. Warrants, trucks, armed, quiet but efficient. No press, no warning, no leaks. Computers seized, phones confiscated, files hauled out in crates, sealed files nobody knew existed. And in the middle of it all, Briggs, in that same pinstriped suit, no expression, no emotion, just business, federal business. Turns out, that spot inspection wasn't his idea. It came from the top. A secret report had landed on Briggs's desk 3 months ago. Anonymous, detailed, dangerous, alleging that officers in the 9th Precinct were part of something bigger. A secret committee of law enforcement officials across the state, connected by race, power, and silence. Black officers mysteriously reassigned, whistleblowers fired, body cams malfunctioning, court cases collapsing from lost evidence, all under the surface, all hidden behind blue walls and white lies. Briggs started digging, quietly, carefully, and what he found, it shook him. Because this wasn't just bad cops, it was judges, it was prosecutors, it was city officials, a whole web of corruption, stretching from the courthouse to the governor's office. And the scariest part? Every time someone tried to expose it, they vanished, resigned, died suddenly. That's why Briggs went in alone. No team, no cameras, no protection. Because if they saw him get treated like a criminal, if he, the highest-ranking black man in federal law enforcement, got dragged in like trash, it proved everything. Now the evidence was out. The footage was viral. And the feds? They were listening. The committee? They were running scared. Phones stopped ringing. Hard drives went missing. People started resigning overnight. The mayor made a surprise trip to Europe. The governor went silent. But it wasn't enough. Because Briggs had the one thing they never expected. A witness. A name. A face. Someone inside the committee, too scared to speak, until now. He stepped forward in a press conference 2 weeks later. Detective Roy Jennings, 20 years in the department, decorated, respected, black. He looked into the cameras, voice shaking. I kept quiet to protect my pension, to protect my family. Swallowed hard. But I saw too much, and it's time the world knew. He named names, spoke facts, dropped documents, dates, payments, and then he handed over a black ledger. Worn, small, leather-bound. Inside, every transaction, every bribe, every payoff, for 10 years. Briggs stood beside him the whole time, hand on his shoulder, eyes locked on the cameras. This is no longer a local matter, he said. This is a national investigation now. And just like that, the case exploded. FBI DOJ Civil Rights Division, all in. And this time, no one was laughing. The same officers who'd called him boy, now facing federal indictments. The same judge who'd rolled her eyes, under investigation for financial misconduct. And the courthouse, the same one that laughed at Briggs, now the epicenter of a scandal that would change the justice system forever. But just when justice seemed within reach, just when the people began to hope, something happened. The witness, Roy Jennings, vanished. Security footage corrupted. His phone last pinged near the harbor. His wife said he kissed her goodbye that morning and never came home. Briggs was furious, but not shocked, because he knew what he was dealing with now. This wasn't just corruption. It was a machine, one that had silenced many before. But this time, they picked the wrong man, because Director Briggs didn't come to play defense. He came for war, and now he was going underground. The next phase of the operation? Covert, international, ruthless, because word was the committee wasn't just local, it had roots overseas, and if Jennings was still alive, Briggs was going to find him, and if he wasn't, Briggs was going to make sure the world knew who buried him. Life lesson? They thought power was in a badge, in a title, in a system built to protect the corrupt. But real power is in the truth. And once it comes out, there's no hiding from it. The headlines hit like a bomb. FBI Director Nathaniel Briggs missing, last seen leaving HQ alone. Just 48 hours after Jennings vanished, Briggs disappeared. No calls, no texts, no GPS. 1 minute he was walking out of FBI headquarters. The next, gone. No motorcade, no agents, just his briefcase and a burner phone. The world panicked. Social media exploded. Did they get him too? Is he in hiding? Was he silenced like the others? But the people who knew Briggs knew better. He didn't disappear. He went ghost on purpose. Because what he found inside the agency shook him to his core. A surveillance tap inside his office, hidden under the frame of a family photo. And the tap? It wasn't foreign, it was domestic. Inside the bureau. He'd been betrayed by someone close, someone with access. The committee had reach, farther than anyone knew. They weren't just in precincts and courthouses. They had agents, analysts, insiders, people who smiled in his face, then sold his moves behind closed doors. So he vanished, cut ties, went dark. He needed time. He needed space. He needed to finish this his way. And that burner phone? That was for one person, Ayanna Monroe, his former protege, now an independent cybercrime expert, brilliant, bold, black. She owed him everything. He gave her her first shot when nobody else would. And now, she was the only one he trusted. He called her from a hidden line. No name, just a voice. "Pack your bags, we're going to Berlin." She didn't ask why. She just said, "When do we leave?" Because Berlin was the last known location of a former CIA asset linked to the committee's offshore accounts. Codename Silverhand, an expert in encryption, turned rogue. And if anyone could help Briggs break the Black Ledger's coded pages, it was him. Meanwhile, back home, the FBI was spinning, publicly searching for their missing director. Privately, panicking. Because without Briggs, the operation was crumbling, the media was turning, and whispers were growing that maybe the Bureau didn't want him found, but one man refused to let the silence win. Jeremiah Ford, Briggs' longtime friend, ex-military, now a civil rights attorney. He took to the airwaves, told the world what they didn't want to hear. If Director Briggs has vanished, it's because someone powerful wanted him gone. The committee isn't just real, it's active. And if you think this is over, you're dead wrong. Crowds formed outside government buildings. Protests surged. They chanted his name in the streets. "Bring back Briggs!" But Briggs, he was already one step ahead. In a cold apartment in East Berlin, he stared at a map, pins, photos, red string, and in the center, a photograph. Blurry, zoomed in, taken months ago from a private satellite, a shipping container marked with a number, last traced to a port in Morocco, Jennings's last known location. And standing near it, a man with a distinct limp, military cut, tattoo on the neck, one of Briggs's former FBI colleagues, now presumed dead, now working with the committee, betrayal confirmed. Briggs clenched his jaw, looked at Ayanna. "We find that container. We find Jennings." But Ayanna frowned, held up her laptop. "There's something else." She turned the screen. A file. Encrypted. Operation Silent Hammer. Black Ops. Signed off 3 years ago. Briggs's signature forged. Mission target? A list of activists, journalists, whistleblowers, all dead now. All ruled accidents. All connected. And at the bottom of the file, his name, Briggs, marked as pending target. He didn't speak, didn't blink, just whispered. They already tried once, paused. But now, they're going to see what happens when the hunted becomes the hunter. Because this wasn't just about the committee anymore. This was about every name on that list, every voice they tried to silence, every body they buried. And now, with the ledger decrypted, with the location in sight, with the enemy watching from inside the very agency he once led, Briggs was coming. And he wasn't just bringing justice. He was bringing fire. Life lesson? Sometimes the fight for truth puts a target on your back. But the real ones? They walk toward the fire anyway. Because the cost of silence is always greater than the price of war. They tried to bury him. Now he's digging them all up. They say betrayal hits hardest when it wears a familiar face. And for director Nathaniel Briggs, that face was Agent Marcus Delroy, decorated, sharp. The man who once stood beside Briggs at graduation, shared missions, secrets, laughed in his living room, held his newborn son, and now Briggs watched that same man on surveillance footage, walking alongside a Moroccan arms dealer, smiling, talking, carrying a briefcase Briggs had reported stolen 6 months ago. Proof, undeniable. Marcus wasn't just compromised, he was the architect. The committee's inside man, planted, trusted, fed intel to cover-ups, silenced witnesses, and greenlit Briggs's own execution. The final blow? It was Marcus who ordered the fake warrant. That led to Briggs's public humiliation in that courtroom. Full circle, twisted, and personal. Briggs stood on the rooftop of a warehouse in Tangier, sunrise burning behind him, the port below. Container 7294 in sight. Guards posted, armed. Inside, Roy Jennings, if he was still alive, and hard drives containing every dark file the committee thought they'd buried forever. But time was up, because Marcus knew he was coming, and this was the last stand. Ayanna tapped her earpiece. All comms go, perimeter secure, drones in the air. Briggs nodded. Let's end it. They moved like ghosts, in and out of shadows. Neutralized the guards, broke the lock. The container creaked open, dark, cold, and then a cough, a voice. Briggs! Roy Jennings, alive, barely, chained, weak. Briggs rushed in, uncuffed him, held him up. I got you, Roy, it's over. But it wasn't. Not yet, because the silence shattered. Boom! An explosion rocked the dock. Ayanna screamed through the comms. Ambush! Multiple targets! It's him! Briggs turned, and there he was. Marcus Delroy, black combat gear, sniper rifle slung, no mask, just betrayal in his eyes. You were always too righteous, Nate. Voice steady, cold. That badge made you forget what it takes to survive. Briggs didn't flinch. I wore that badge to protect people like you, people who forgot what justice means. Marcus circled, gun raised. You should have stayed silent. You had power. Why throw it away for people who'll never thank you? Briggs stepped forward. Because they're the reason we had power. Pulled his own weapon. And if I gotta lose everything to bring them justice, then I die standing. Gunshots erupted. Chaos, flashes, screams. But in the end, Briggs didn't miss. Marcus dropped. One shot. Straight to the heart. As he lay dying, he whispered, You think they'll let you win? Briggs knelt beside him. I don't need permission to deliver justice. Silence fell. The last thread of the committee's web snapped. By noon, Interpol had the hard drives. The contents leaked. Names, dates, videos, bank accounts, judges, senators, military contractors, all exposed. And Jennings? He walked out of that container a survivor. Testified before Congress, helped dismantle the committee one piece at a time. Briggs didn't take a victory lap. He didn't hold a press conference, he just disappeared again. Some say he retired, some say he's overseas, still hunting the last ghosts. Some say he's building something new, a task force, accountable to the people. But wherever he is, the world knows one thing. Justice was served. And this time, the system bled. Life lesson? Sometimes justice isn't in the courtrooms or behind the podium. It's in the shadows, in the silence, in the hands of those who refuse to bow. If the justice system betrayed you, would you fight from within or burn it down from the outside? Drop your thoughts below.